this morning, Supreme Court of Appeal President Mandisa Maya will be interviewed for the Deputy Chief Justice position by the Judicial Service Commission. That position, of course, becoming vacant when President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed then Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo as the new head of the Constitutional Court. So Maya is the only candidate Ramaphosa has nominated for this job. Let's get you a sense of what to expect. We're joined by Chris Oxtoby this morning. He's with UCT's Democratic Governance and Rights Unit. Chris, once again, good morning. Great to have you with us on the program. This is the same, well, almost the same JSC that recommended her for the Chief Justice post. One wonders what form today's interviews will take.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see how the interview shakes out. I would expect, because, as you say, they did interview her for another leadership position earlier in the year. I would expect the interview to be quite focused. I don't think it should go on for as long as those Chief Justice interviews did. But there are some important changes in the panel, not least of which the fact that Chief Justice Zondo himself is now chairing it and is now assessing his potential deputy. So I think one might see some discussion between the Chief Justice and Justice Maya about the Chief Justice's own vision for the judiciary and how Justice Maya will contribute to that. I think we might see some discussion of a particular role that the Deputy Chief Justice has traditionally had in the regulation of judicial conduct, where by practice the DCJ usually chairs the Judicial Conduct Committee. So I think one might see Justice Maya being asked some questions about how she sees her role there.
Yeah.
But generally, I don't think we should expect any massive surprises or anything significantly different from what came out from her last interview.
It's interesting that you say Chief Justice Zondo is chairing today's interview process. That lends a particular dimension to today's interview, because he himself was the Deputy Chief Justice. He's now in the top job at the Apex Court, so he knows what he now wants in a deputy as well. So that's an interesting dynamic as well.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's a dynamic that obviously wasn't present when all the candidates were interviewed for the Chief Justice position. So I think that's something that's going to be interesting to watch and to look out for. What clues there are from the questions that the Chief Justice asks about his own vision for the judiciary in the coming years. I think Justice Maya, during her interview for Chief Justice, set out a very detailed and comprehensive vision for how she saw the future of the judiciary going. So it'll be interesting also to see if the Chief Justice picks up on any aspects of that. And how their visions for the institution come together.
Yeah. Chris, is today a box-ticking exercise, given that she's the only candidate?
It is something of a box-ticking exercise. It is a box-ticking exercise that the Constitution does require.
Right.
So it is something that needs to be done. But I can well understand that people will look at the fact that she was interviewed so recently and the fact that she's now the only candidate and question the value of the process today. But the Constitution does require the JSC to give its input on the appointment of the Deputy Chief Justice, which is what will follow this process. But I think part of what will make it a box-ticking exercise also is that Justice Maya has already previously shown that she's an extremely strong and capable candidate. She's got enormous experience as a judicial leader. So I don't think it's I'm not expecting any sort of significant problems with her candidacy to emerge from the process, and hopefully these issues of her and the Chief Justice's vision for the judiciary is going to be something that we'll get some sense of, because the judiciary, of course, faces a lot of challenges and it needs leadership to address those.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to just touch on that now. This interview process today and Justice Maya herself coming in at a time where the judiciary is facing its own challenges, coming in at a time where the Chief Justice himself has 2 years left on his tenure. She's central to sort of addressing these various and different issues.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I touched earlier on the fact that by convention, the Deputy Chief Justice normally chairs the Judicial Conduct Committee. And now the whole area of the regulation of judges' conduct and complaints against judges has been one that's been notoriously inefficient. Cases have been very slow to deal with. There's many high-profile cases that haven't been resolved. So that's something where I think, particularly we'll be wanting to see what Justice Maya will bring to that role and what ideas she may have about how to reform that process. And of course, there's numerous other challenges that have been in the news recently around infrastructure, around controversies with the tender process for the online case management system. So the whole question of governance and leadership in the judiciary is very much one that we've seen in the last few months, requires serious attention.
Yeah, and she's got a proven track record of being successful in those spheres. Chris, let me thank you for your time this morning. Chris Oxtoby is from UCT's Democratic Governance and Rights Unit, as we continue to unpack the interview process set to unfold today for the position of Deputy Chief Justice.